Welcome back to Tiny Blue Games. My name is, of course, Csaw or Chris, and today we're talking about Final Fantasy XIV in 2020. Today we are continuing the main scenario quest throughout Heavensward, and specifically we're going to be talking about Azys Lla. So if you watched the last episode, we kind of just did a reaction video to the journey to Azys Lla, which ended up being a huge amount of cutscene and story, and was probably one of my favorite cutscenes that I've watched so far. It was just really exciting and actually had quite an emotional toll as well. So I thought that was really good. If you haven't checked out the video, do check it out, because it will kind of be the prequel to this video. This video is really just us going through Azys Lla and sort of continuing the main scenario quest up to the first dungeon. Now, if you are watching this on Saturday, November the 14th, we're actually going to be doing a live stream tonight where we will be going through that dungeon, and I believe there's a trial that happens afterwards as well. So we do plan to tackle both of those in the live stream. If you are free today at 5 MST, be sure to check that out here on YouTube. We'd love to have you for it. So this video is going to be split kind of into two, as I've been doing a lot in my past videos, where we're going to do a bit of a voiceover where we go over the main scenario quest story that happened when we arrived in Azys Lla, and the final part of this video will be us exploring the island once we've unlocked flying. And this was a great tip from a lot of my viewers who mentioned that flying works a bit differently in Azys Lla, and what really happens here is all of the Aether Currents are unlocked through the actual main scenario quest. So pretty much by progressing through that, you unlock the flying instead of having to use kind of your compass thing to go find them and doing side quests. And the main reason this changes, from what I understand, well, there's two reasons. Number one, the inability to fly is really tied to the story of Azys Lla, as well as the fact that when we do unlock flying, there's a really cool moment that happens, and we'll get to that at the very end of this quick story dive. Alrighty, so let's talk about what happened in Azys Lla. I've got my notes out, so hopefully I don't forget anything, but you know, I definitely could. So once we arrive in Azys Lla, we needed to track down the Archbishop. That's pretty much the main reason we came here. Well, it's pretty much the main reason we came here, is we're trying to find the Archbishop and stop him from doing what horrible stuff he's going to do here. The main thing Sid wants to do when we get here is use the computers to track him down, and the way he thinks we can do this is by seeing where on the island there's a lot of energy being used, because that probably will tell us where the Archbishop is, because the island should be deserted. We do this by trying to interact with a few computers, but ultimately Wedge finds this amazing guidance node that helps us on our journey. And this guidance node is probably one of my favorite parts of this zone, because he's a robot and he kind of follows us around, but he's also kind of kind, and he doesn't make jokes necessarily, but he says statements that are pretty funny. For instance, he'll often reference how long ago it's been since like a certain system has run, and he'll say it to the exact second, even though it's like 1,000 years or something. So it's pretty fun that way. And then he also does a lot of disclaimers about the fact that the facility is not responsible for bodily harm that may occur. So there's some really funny stuff that happens there, and I think it adds to the story really well, because most of the actual main scenario quest story at this point is very dramatic, very intense. So it's nice to have kind of that secondary character that's a bit more lighthearted and a bit funnier. So I mentioned there were a couple of reasons that you don't have flying unlocked right away, and the first of these is that we're kind of using these teleporter devices to get around from island to island in this zone. And I want to just pause here for a second, because teleportation in general is something that I've been terrified of even as a kid. It's spooky, and don't get me wrong, I know that teleportation's not like a real thing in the world right now, but I watched a fair bit of like Star Trek, The Next Generation as a kid, and whenever people went through the transporter, I was always just scared of what that would feel like to go through and have your body kind of disassembled and then reassembled, and the possible complications that could arise from it. There's lots of episodes obviously in Star Trek that do kind of look at what could go wrong. I believe someone was once trapped in like an alternate reality where they were kind of like phased out from everyone slightly. So yeah, very spooky. I'm just gonna say that if teleportation like this, or like on Star Trek, ever becomes a thing in real life, I will be a late adopter. I will not be rushing to go and try it out, which I know is going to be ridiculous because it's going to be one of those things that it almost works 100% of the time, and it's going to be kind of like how air travel is technically a lot safer than driving by car, even though I'm more scared of air travel because when it doesn't go right, there's a lot of bad that could happen. So it's one of those situations, and this has nothing really to do with the story. A quick aside. So let's get back on topic, back to the story, but just so you know, scared of teleportation. So throughout going through the rest of the island, we do eventually find that the Empire has successfully landed their ship and is kind of doing their own preparations to take the island for their own need. Now this ends with us having kind of a confrontation with Van Hydrus that goes really well. Like we were kind of whooping him until he ends it and brings in a bunch of reinforcements. At that point, Estinian and Alphino say that they're going to hold them off, and they say we should continue on, and we get the eye. So some really big stuff happening there. After that, though, Midgar Summer does appear, and he tells us some really interesting stuff about the fact that one of his first brood is being trapped here on the island. So we do go and find Tiamat, I think is how you'd pronounce it. That's the name of his first brood. It's this huge dragon that's just being trapped in like this really cool area. Like it's really sad because like the dragon's been trapped there forever. Well, not forever, but for a really long time, and it's really like sad, but it's such a cool place to see. Like there's kind of like this sort of sparkly stuff in the air, and it's very magical. Like it's a super cool thing, and it's really interesting because the dragon was so big that I didn't notice it until like it was really zoomed in on in the cutscene, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I was expecting a smaller dragon. So it was a super cool cinematic moment, and it's kind of like something that was unexpected, I guess, even though I believe we've learned that dragons were being either studied or like researched here, so it's not that crazy of a thing, but it's just a really cool thing. We do talk to Tiamat, who is brood brothers with Bahamut. I'm so sorry about names. I will get better. And we find out that sort of the Allagan killed her brood and trapped her there. So it's kind of interesting because I always thought that the Allagan were not necessarily bad people. They were just like this really high-tech civilization that disappeared. But the more I'm learning about them, the more it sounds like they were kind of evil. But of course, up until Heavensward, we thought that dragons were pretty evil, and now we're kind of questioning that as well. So I think that's what Final Fantasy does really well, is it's not black and white about who's bad and good. There's a lot of grayness that does happen, unlike other MMOs like World of Warcraft, where someone who won't be named burns down an entire tree of people, and the developers tell us to say, oh, it's definitely gray. I'd say Final Fantasy XIV does a lot better job of having these gray lines. Certainly at this point in the story, maybe like further on it becomes more black and white about a lot of these different races and stuff, about who is good, who is bad, but I think they do a really good job at this point to keep the gamers guessing, right? So that's really nice. Ultimately, we find out that Tiamat has a lot of guilt for what happened to her brood brother, and she's just really been trying to struggle with that while being trapped here. So it sounds like she's had a real rough a few thousand years, so not super great. Right after this cutscene, we do have another cutscene where we fully complete or get restored Hydaelyn's blessing, which is a really big sort of part of this story that's been happening pretty much after every big moment we've kind of unlocked one of the blessings, and we finally finished that, which in my mind sort of points to the fact that a big confrontation is going to happen at the end here. We also get to sort of partner with Midgar Summer, and he lets us ride us. So this is the second part as to why flying is unlocked different here, is that after this part of the main scenario quest, you're able to ride your mounts, obviously, and you get Midgar Summer as your mount, which is super, super cool. At first when this happened, I thought it was just a quest where I get to fly him like up onto kind of a structure, and then he'd be gone. But then I checked out my mount area, and I was like, oh my goodness, I get this as a mount. So super, super cool. We will be riding this mount a lot in the future until I get something cooler, but this is super awesome. And I think that really, like, it's such a nice reward for the game to give people mounts like this that are tied to the story, that are unlocked through the main scenario quest, that aren't hidden behind stuff, and really have a big impact on the gameplay. So that's super, super cool. But yeah, so the next part of this video is going to be us exploring Azys Lla, and we'll do, once again, kind of a live recording while I go around and take a look at what I see. Alrighty, so here we are in Azys Lla. We're going to do our kind of exploration walkthrough of the zone. This is after having done the main scenario quest up to the first dungeon unlock. So we've got a bit more of an idea of what's going on here, but it's still fairly interesting. So the first thing I wanted to point out is look at this awesome mount. This is one of my favorite parts of the zone, is that you do unlock the mount through it. It feels really rewarding just going through the zone and doing the main scenario quest, which I think is really fun. This is, I'm sorry, I'm sort of in the starting area. This is where we landed with the Enterprise Excelsior and got off the ship here. So this is where you'll come into the zone, and it's got kind of this sort of technology hub. And to me, when I first landed here, it looks like this was all made out of wood, but I'm going to assume this is like a type of metal or some sort of alloy that's not, you know, not common to the rest of the world, right? This is the Allegan technology, and it does look very different, which I think is a very good job that they've done here. And we can see Sid here with a few of the terminals and stuff. They're trying to get information. You also notice all these nodes that are around. These are kind of the nodes that help us explore the area, which is really cool. They're kind of our guide as we go through here. So I really enjoyed the intro to this place. But let's take a little fly around here, and you can see it's got a really nice like orangey color that kind of silhouettes a lot of the islands and stuff, and I think it's a really beautiful look. Obviously it will change depending on the time of day, but I think this is one of the nicer times to go around and explore. And we'll go kind of in the order in which we did go through the zone, because I think that's kind of the fair way to do this. So there's not a ton of stuff. It's actually a pretty mazy place, so it's not the most enjoyable place to walk around, but luckily enough you unlock flying a lot quicker than you would in some of the other zones, which is good. Oh, I actually just managed to uncover some more of the map, which is good. Let's take some look at some of the creatures here, though. We got a lot of mechanical creatures and then some organic creatures as well that are kind of like damaging the electronics, but I really enjoy these clockwork engineers. They look super cool. Like, look at this. Look at this. Really, really cool. Like, just sort of kind of like the cogs that are like kind of their eyes or whatever. Actually, they're going to attack us here, so we can sort of see some of the stuff they do. A lot of mechanical movements. Like, it was a really well animated character. Like, it feels so different, and it looks really, really cool. So I think that's a really nice, like, part of the island, is having these kind of different creatures. Let's quickly finish this guy off. Hopefully I won't run into some rare mob that like one-shots me this time, but we'll try and be more careful. I think there's a slight variation over here, yeah, where they have kind of the different head to them, which is pretty cool. So it's very much the same style of creature, just a different head, which is interesting. I'll quickly finish that off too. Alrighty, so over here is the first teleporter that we unlock, and I'm not sure if we can use it or not now that we've unlocked it. That would be an interesting thing to check out. But this is how we get around the island, or got around the island before we had flying unlocked. Let me actually just see here if we can go in. I think we can. Yeah, so we can teleport it. So I don't know if it's going to show the same cutscene, but we should teleport from here to up there. And this is how we got around the island. No, it does not show you the cutscene, so you just get to go. It does have like a loading screen though, so I don't know if it's actually much shorter, but still, it's nice. So we did come up here next. There was a lot of caves around here, and we had to go and kill some creatures that were disabling a teleporter. So there was, it's a lot of that really, and just going and finding, but you can see more of the organic creatures here. So we've got this corpse flower. Which I think we've seen variations of this in different zones before. It reminds me of The Pokemon, God, I'm so bad at this. You know, the green guy. The leafy Pokemon with the tentacles that like it's very much a similar looking enemy, which is, I guess in Pokemon it's kind of an ally. But you know where I'm going with this. From here, I believe we ended up going down to the right corner, and we're gonna try going there and see what happens. What I do like is that there's just so much like technology, and there's this kind of the central hub here in the middle, and that's where certainly the dungeon, like that's the research facility, right? And a lot of these side pieces are just different outposts and stuff. Oh, this is cool. I haven't seen this. It's like kind of a garden on the top of this, like some trees and stuff. This is really cool. You can see down into it. I'm not entirely sure what this is. All right. Oh, here's the the Empire's ship here, sort of parked beside here, and you can see how big it is. Like, it's just crazy. But they've got kind of their camp set up around here, and a lot of their soldiers have been sort of shipped off into the island to try and secure the resources for themselves. It's kind of like a three-way race in a lot of ways, where we have the Scions are us, I guess, and then the Empire, and then the Archbishop. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out in the end. Hopefully it goes fairly well, but we'll have to see. You can see here there's even some more sort of like outpost for the soldiers and stuff. Oh, there's this kind of dragon guy here. No, this one has like a marker on it. I don't want to. I'm gonna leave that be for now. I'm not looking to have another sudden death situation. But I think it's impressive how much of the land the Empire took over so quickly. There's really cool like ramp structures over here as well. So we'll head over to the last zone, and actually I do want to kind of just see, it looks like the dungeon, like the secondary dungeon, and I believe this is the dungeon that would be like after the base expansion content, is over here, it looks like. So in this kind of structure, let me just see if we can find, is there an entrance here? Maybe it doesn't even open till like we have like more of the expansion cleared, but it's kind of cool. So yeah, here's the last quadrant, and this quadrant is all about the dragon. Dragons in general. I mean, apparently they did a lot of research on dragons and stuff like that, but in here we should be able to see the trapped dragon. I think it's going to be, I'm trying to remember where. I mean, it's going to be one of the points of interest, you'd think. Oh yeah, over here. So they're kind of like these big prisons made out of the crystals, and it looks like you could have more dragons imprisoned here as well. But yeah, just like this. Look how cool this is. And it's kind of got like this sparkly energy all around the area. I think this is hands down one of my favorite spots on the map. And the music changes when you come down here too. Like, it's got just such a different feeling to it. Like, look at that imprisonment, and they've been there for like thousands of years in that position. Like, I can't even imagine. It's crazy. But yeah, super cool. I think this is hands down one of my favorite parts of the map that I've seen so far. All right, and the last place we'll go to is the central area. I didn't want to spend too long doing this because, I mean, it's a smaller zone in general. Like, if you're looking at the zone, it's a lot of spaces kind of between the islands versus some of the other zones. And it's definitely got that feeling of a high-end zone, right? Like high level. Now, do we go to the top or the bottom? It's a lot of verticality too, I guess, is a big part of this. I think we go up. We'll see. I like these little like structures in the air too. I actually haven't gone close to one, so it'll be interesting to see what they do when you go near them. Like, are these gonna hurt me? Or are they just like a visual? Oh, they're not. You can't even run into them. They're just a visual thing, which is, they're a nice visual touch. and it'd be pretty irritating to have to avoid them while you're flying around. Alright, so let's get up to the top here. And you'll notice right away these stunning statues, like just all around here. Super, super cool. Like, look at these. And it's kind of the central tower there. Really, really nice. And then there's these really cool creatures, and actually I wanted to go and attack one, see what they do, but they're like these sphinx creatures that are kind of, I would say, robotic, but they've got like a very different style to them. Got like a flame breath, like they're fiery but a lot robotic. Kind of look like they're made out of stone, but I think it's more supposed to be metal. But I'm no expert. All right, and we'll just head down here. This is the entrance to the dungeon that we will be doing during the live stream later today. If you are watching on the 14th, be sure to come check us out tonight. If you aren't able to watch, or this is in the past, the live stream should also be up on the channel somewhere as a archived video, so you should be able to see it as well if you're interested in that content, though I might make a specific video that kind of cuts out the dungeon and stuff because it is important to the main story as well. Yeah, so here's our guidance node. He helped us get here, or she, or it. It helped us get here, which is really cool. And yeah, this is the entrance. So I'll leave us here so that we're ready for the live stream. But yeah, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun exploring Azys Lla. I don't know if Azys Lla is my favorite zone, but I'd say it's my favorite main scenario quest progression through a zone, if that makes sense. I really liked the switch up. I liked having the flying tied directly to the quest chain. In fact, I wish World of Warcraft had it so that as soon as you did the story of a zone, you unlocked flying as well, instead of having to do any kind of grinding afterwards. Now, notably, the grind that you do in Final Fantasy XIV is much less than World of Warcraft, but I think it's a really cool idea to have it just really tied directly to the story. But yeah, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I'll see you later at the live stream if this is on the Saturday that you're watching. If not, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.